this. A top police officer, Gavin Stevens, says the force must acknowledge they're institutionally racist. The chair of the National Police Chiefs Council said some groups simply won't take the police seriously unless they accept the diagnosis of institutional racism and say it out loud. With us now is Shabnam, former Detective Superintendent of Scotland Yard of 30 years, Shabnam Chowdhury. We've spoken before on this. I mean, you can always hear half the room going, not again. Really? Why does somebody want us to use this phrase out loud when it seems to many people have lost all meaning, Shabnam? It doesn't seem to really explain very much about what the police are guilty of and what they need to do to put it right.
Well, interesting that you should say that. Why again, not again? And I suspect that some of those forces, let's say, for example, the Metropolitan Police, thought this was going to go away and get brushed under the carpet, but it will never go away until those forces do actually accept and acknowledge the label that they've been given, review after review.
Why do they have to? I mean, we go back to Macpherson, right? I mean, that's, I think, when after Stephen Lawrence, when we first heard this phrase, institutional racism, that goes back over a couple of decades or more now. The police would argue that when it comes to recruitment, they are falling over themselves to reflect, in the case of the Met, reflect what London looks like. It's unrecognisable from those 2 decades ago. In terms of training and awareness on race issues, you know this more than anyone else. As a non-white person who served in that very force, you are fully aware of whether they're doing well or whether they're not doing well. But they would say, again, it bears no resemblance to what it was 20 years ago. So what is it there? If recruitment is on the up, is my point, and awareness and officers, being sent on courses, if you like, if all of that is on the up, what more should they be doing?
Well, it's not about being sent on courses, and they can't recruit police officers at the moment. They're struggling to retain police officers at the moment. And this is about trust and confidence of minority communities, of women as well. And at the moment, there was a survey literally a day ago that was publicised that forces across England and UK have a 40% trust of the general public, which means it's rock bottom. The Metropolitan Police actually is rock bottom of that survey. So the fact is, until they acknowledge some of the cultural issues that they're facing within policing, they are not going to be able to move forward.
But are they cultural issues? Are they issues that are... And we've obviously, we can talk Wayne Couzens, we can, again, to mention Stephen Lawrence, and beyond, and everything that's happened in between. We can talk about Charing Cross and WhatsApp groups, and we know about these awful stories. We can talk about officers elsewhere taking photographs of victims and sharing them. But we would still be talking about the actions of individual officers. There's no force that would OK that, right? There's no inspector or superintendent that would say that's OK.
No, because let's just be clear, there are thousands of good officers that are not racist, that are not misogynistic, that are not homophobic. But this is about organisations that are institutional in their systems and their processes. That means, for example, when you get stop and search and particular groups are targeted, or you've got the handcuffing of particularly black and minority of young people, or you've got the systems and processes within policing where the promotion opportunities are less favourable towards black and minority officers. Of course, policing is trying to be better, but I can tell you now through my experiences, through working with many communities, until organisations admit that, then there is going to be a continuous problem. Let's just say something else. So Mark Rowley refuses to acknowledge that ever since the Casey review was publicised last March, because he says it's ambiguous and it is a political term that might imply these officers are racist. If the commissioner...
It's a fair point, isn't it?
If the commissioner of the biggest police force in this country can't explain and educate to his own officers what institutional racism means, What on earth is he doing sitting there as a commissioner of
Because,
that?
maybe it's possible, Shabnam, that he just doesn't acknowledge that particular term and finds it deeply anti-intellectual and unhelpful. It doesn't really address anything.
Well, let's be clear. He was bowing down to political pressure from the then Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. It was the Home Secretary that didn't want to acknowledge that label.
But what is gained by using that label specifically?
I tell you what's been gained by it, I think, and it's such a simple ask of the organisation. Actually, acknowledge that you are institutional racist. And I'm not talking about just the Met Police, I'm talking about other forces across the UK. Draw a line under it, let those communities that won't work with you because of the fact that you won't acknowledge that, who will then accept that you finally acknowledge a problem that has been festered and as a cultural issue with the divisive problems that they have with police and communities, and they will work much closer and they will help to build the trust and the confidence that is needed across policing. And actually, it will help those officers on the front line who are consistently being targeted by members of the public because they think that this is the case, whereas actually, if you acknowledge that, then you're going to be in a better position.
All right, Shabnam, always good to get your take on these things. Shabnam Chowdhury, former Detective Chief Superintendent over there at Scotland Yard. Thank you to her.